ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम Thank you again for joining. So today will be hopefully the concluding session, but let's keep it going. Nityam Bhagavata Seva. It is never just one thing, one off. Every day we have to be connected with Krishna. Not every day, actually, always. Nityam actually means always. So Krishna, time and again, he keeps saying in Bhagavad-Gita that recurrent theme in Bhagavad-Gita is Sada Tad Bhava Bhavita. Always we have to be conscious of Krishna. That is Krishna conscious. And in Sanskrit it is known as Krishna Bhava Nrita. So yesterday we were discussing about the transmigration of soul, right? There's so much more to say about it. And then we spoke about few instances, and there was a question that was raised: how will we know when that soul will get the next body, or what will be the path of transmigration? So it really depends on case-to-case basis. As I said, the most advanced soul will have the easiest, and average, just about everybody actually has to go through the most painful journey to Yamaloka. They have to cross the Vaitarani river, all this, and it takes 1 year to get there. But most sinful people, they will have to go through this, but they'll go to hell. But those who have started on this Bhakti Marga process, they will never have to see the face of their God. Even Shankaracharya says this in Bhajagovindam. Bhagavadgita kinchidadita Ganga jalalama kanika pita Sakridapiyena murari samarcha Kriyate tasya yamena na chakcha. Actually, there's a historical incident that is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is really one of the most amazing incidents that happened. It is the story of Ajamila, really well-known story. He was a very devout Brahmana and very obedient to all the scriptures, dharma, everything, and he was doing all his duties. He was married, he had wife, children. Just so happened that once his father asked him to go get flowers from the forest. And so when he was returning with the flowers, he just happened to see some intimate dealings with the Shudra woman and a man. In the Bhagavatam, it is specified that it was a Shudra because the higher castes would never indulge in such physical display of affection in public. So that is the kind of culture they had. Now Kali Yuga has become so degraded that everybody thinks it's good and something that they can flaunt. So this happened to disturb this Brahmana, such a pure Brahmana, that suddenly even he started getting such lusty desires that he wanted to get that woman and have an intimate relationship with her, even though he had a nice family, wife and everything, and he just could not control his agitated mind. So this is the danger of being in such a corrupt or polluted society, and how much more we have to be careful that way. Even though he was not living in such a society, but We have these samskaras from God knows how many million trillions of lifetimes. Even the slightest agitation, that desire can pop up and it can cause havoc. That's exactly what happened to Ajamila. And driven by lust, helplessly, um, he gets rid of his family and brings in that woman. She was actually a prostitute. And then he has a family with her, so many children, and because of her demands and which he wouldn't be able to meet as a Brahmana, he happens to take to all sorts of um, immoral ways to earn money. He would start mugging people, probably even killing people, and he would go to any extent to satisfy this woman's desires and in turn his own desires. Such a devout Brahmana falls down totally into such a sinful situation. So Arjuna also asks this question to Krishna. Anichan napi vashneya bhaladiva niyojitaha. So how do we understand? Even unwillingly, even good people commit bad things or crime. How can we understand this? As though we are being forced, So Krishna says, yes, happens. All because kama, krodha, all these urges in us are very difficult to control. And so what happens with Ajamila is finally, even at an advanced age, probably he'll be around 80 years old, he'll still have a child. And that will be his last child. And somehow by the mercy of the Lord, by the advice of some Brahmana, Vaishnavas, they'll tell him to name this child Narayana. So he names him Narayana, but he'll be so attached to this small child. For every small thing, he'll keep calling the child. Narayana, what are you doing? Narayana, what are you doing? Narayana, you're playing, come take the ball or whatever. So all the time he's chanting Narayana, although he has forgotten everything about his dharma. But now because he's chanting the name even unconsciously, he is getting purified. Apanna samsrutin ghoram yannama vivasho ghrinan tatasadyo vimucheta yet viveti swayam bhayam. Bhagavatam says, now that we have gotten into this situation, terrible material world, because we're constantly being tossed around, we really don't know where we are heading next. Padam padam yadvi padam. We don't know actually. Any minute there may be danger. It's not to scare, but this is reality. We don't know. We go out, we may not return home, especially in Kali Yuga, more so. So, having attained the situation, but one who even unconsciously chants the holy name of the Lord, Narayana, Vishnu, Krishna, even once, he will be immediately relieved. So, Ajamila kept chanting day in, day out, without knowing what is happening, right? But then he had been committing so many sins, but now at least, because in his old age, he couldn't do much. So, and then came the final time of death. Because of his extremely, sinful previous life, he had committed already a whole lot of sins. Here, Yamadutas were keeping track. So, there are all authorities. It's not that just because we don't know, we are unaware, we may think, whatever I do, who's being? That's not true. The Shastra, it is said, the sun and the moon are the eyes of the Lord. So also, there are 33 crore devatas, and Yamaraja is the chief who keeps track of our karma. And he has his assistant called Chitragupta. He gets the name because he actually has Chitra, photo. He has snapshots of every single incident. If somebody contests, why did I do, why are you punishing me this, he can immediately show. It's not that only IT industry can have virtual images. Everything is there already. The perfect organization. So now he has approached his time of death. Now Yamadutas come. 3 Yamadutas, horrible looking creatures. And so many people have this experience. It all gets probably rubbed under the carpet. People don't speak about all this. If you go to hospice or the facilities where people who are closer to death, they are being treated or they are being posted. Even in America, even in the Western countries, they also can relate so many of such incidents that many people see ghostly or demonic beings towards the end of the time of death. So these are the Yamadutas. It's not that only one who is Hindu is subject to, everybody is subject to, whether they are Hindu, Christian, it's the same system. Yamaraja is there for everyone. Devatas are there for everyone. They may call it in different names. So Ajamila sees these horrible looking scary creatures and he gets so scared. And what does he do immediately? He calls his son Narayana. He calls his son Narayana, not the Supreme Lord, but because he calls the Lord, the holy name of the Lord, at the time of death, that is most important. And then Acharya has also explained that then he remembered, oh, this is Narayana. I'm calling my son Narayana, but what can my son do? What can anybody do? Nobody can save us. Then immediately Vishnudutas come to his rescue. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavan jajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Krishna says in the book. This is the final test, final exam. Doesn't matter what we have done all our life. People usually think, spiritual life is, or bhakti is for those who are retired or old and all that. Oh. Let's say if we were to study just the previous day of the exam, what are the chances that we will pass? We have to study all this throughout. Similarly, even this is the greatest exam. How we fare at the time of death. That is the whole life actually is a preparation for that. And how we fare in that depends on our practice throughout.
Actually, Ajamila has committed so many sins. That also has to be taken into account, right?
Yes, this I'm coming to that. Bhagavatam completely. That is the whole, this episode is all about that.
Yeah, because we know that Ajamila calls Narayana and then Narayana and Vishnu Dutas to take him. We know that. But all throughout his life he committed sin. So that's how much we know. So
if you have to know more, you should read the Bhagavatam.
That's right. Okay.
So now the Bhagavatam explains, it's a very interesting dichotomy. Never had happened before. So now these Yamadutas are amazed that such godly beings, so effulgent, they are Chaturbhuja form, they have blue body form and so effulgent, they're just like Vishnu. So how is it that they have come to rescue such a sinful man? And Vishnu Dutas explained to them, there is a whole big conversation that ensues between the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas. The Vishnu Dutas explained to them. But first of all, Yamadutas didn't even know. They thought, their king or their master is the master of the whole creation. And then only now they are getting to know there is someone higher than that. So it's the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he is the highest authority. Whatever he says, that is dharma. Dharma tu sakshat bhagavat praneta. So they explain that one who is doing bhakti, how is it that you people, Yamaraja's Dutas, how can they even touch him? He is constantly chanting the name Narayana. He is beyond the jurisdiction of Yamaraja. Karma can. So I brought this up just to say that Yesterday also I mentioned, there is that verse in Bhagavadgita, 2nd chapter, Krishna says, Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. This is the Mahabhaya. One may go into some, God knows, whatever species of life, or they may go to hell. They may have to face Yamaraja, that is the Mahabhaya. But one who has even started little of their endeavor in Bhakti Yoga, is guaranteed, even Chakracharya said, he doesn't have to meet him. So this happened, Jamila episode happened, and the Vishnudutas anyway tell them that, it's beyond your jurisdiction. Don't ever commit this mistake again. We are there to take it. So they will take him. And by then, Ajamila hears this whole conversation and he will remember everything. His previously, how much dharma he was performing, how much bhakti he was doing. And now he comes to his senses and he laments piteously that what I did was completely wrong. Now his heart completely changes. He gives up everything and immediately goes to Haridwar and completely surrenders his life to the Lord and keeps chanting the mantra, the holy name of the Lord. And then finally, when he is completely purified, then Vishnudutas come back and then they take him to it. What about his first day? It is all gone. That's it. But now he is on his way to Vaikuntha. If he goes to Vaikuntha, this whole family will be also promoted. Even if one person becomes a Vaishnava in a family, Narasimha Deva tells this to Prahlada. Because Prahlada is such an exalted Vaishnava. 21 generations will be liberated, not just one or two. 21 back to 21 front. 21 generations of forefathers will be redeemed. Uddhara, Kulana Uddhara.
So those are the 21. So they have to have like a very pious one person in that family, right? Extremely pious without any sin. But Ajamila is not an example because he committed sin. But then
doesn't matter.
21, generation before and after is that one person must have done like a lot of dharma.
This Bhagavata Dharma is so compassionate, it will not take into consideration that what you have done before, you may have been a sinner, criminal, whatever, doesn't matter.
That's what it's really fine.
As long as you come to you can come, anybody can come, but the only condition is there should be kapata, duplicity. Ajamila, he tried, but he got into this. Sometimes it's very difficult. Maya, attack of Maya. ದೇವರು ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾರಂತಲ್ಲ ಅವನ ಕರ್ಮಾನು ಹಂಗಿತ್ತು ಪಾಪ ಲೇಡಿ ಕರ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಕರ್ಮ ಅವನದು ಕರ್ಮಾನು ಹಂಗಿತ್ತು ಬಟ್ ಅವಳ ಕರ್ಮ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡೀಸ್ ಕರ್ಮ ಬಟ್ ದೆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ once we have taken to this process of bhakti yoga, Lord will always protect. Even though he had committed all that, but it was the Supreme Lord sitting in his heart, gave him that remembrance, right? Gave him the chance to chant the holy name at the time of death. That is the greatest fortune. Whatever happened doesn't matter. Finally, he attained the highest destination. So, and when the Yamadutas went back to Yamaraja, they were astounded. At the same time, they were very disappointed that nobody had challenged them before like this. And they thought our Yamaraja is the highest authority. Who is it? How did all this happen? And then Yamaraja explains to them, yes, these devotees of Vishnu, you should never even go to them. This is the last episode. It should never happen. So because the Supreme Lord himself takes care of punishing them, rewarding them, they go beyond karma. But one who is practicing it. So that's why in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, Brahma says, Taptena kampam sushamikshama gunjana eva atmakritam vipaka. Hridvag Vapurbhir, Vidadan Namaste, Jive, Ye, Mukti Pade Sad Dayabhak. That means, usually what is the attitude of such great Vaishnavas? They, whatever happens, they will not blame anyone or the Supreme Lord. They'll blame it is all because of my own karma. But then they also take everything as the mercy of the Lord. If somebody lives like this and always being, respectful and devoted to the Lord, then this moksha or this parampada attainment becomes their natural. They become the natural air for that. Just like how if a son has to be living, that's it. When his father or his ancestor passes away, he will naturally inherit the property. Similarly, a Vaishnava has to keep on doing his sadhana bhakti. The Vaishnava shouldn't worry about what will happen and all that because all will take. So he just have to keep on doing his bhakti till the end of his life. Then naturally he will be taken. So now, so what does this mean is that at the time of death, whatever we are thinking of, it could be any form, anything. What is that one thing we are thinking of? That is what we are going to get in there. So it's very, very, very important. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits the body. Actually, it is said that at the time of death, the whole movie of our life will be played before us. Entire thing in that few seconds or 1 second or whatever we are most attached to, whatever is most dear to us, that's what we will hold on to, right? Naturally. And that form, which is very dear to us, is what we will probably get that form in our next. It is very dangerous unless we have a spiritual form, unless we are thinking of the Supreme Lord. Why would we want to get into another material form and again get into this form? Nobody can assure us that, we may get a human form. Let's say somebody is attached to their dog. Definitely they'll become a dog in their next life if they're thinking of the dog. Whatever we think of, that's why we have to practice to think about this. Sada tad bhavam. So how do we practice thinking about the Lord? Unless somebody is very dear to us, how will we think about them? We will not think. How can they become dear to us? As we discussed yesterday, if the Supreme Lord has to become dear to us, or anybody has to, we have to know about, we have to hear about. That is why we have to practice this sadhana bhakti. So we talked about sambandha, who are we, what is our relationship with the Lord. Now let's talk a little bit about abhideya. So what should we do then? What is the process working with the Supreme? So that is the sadhana bhakti. Like I said, bhakti or even prema for the Lord, these are all not vague emotions. These are not at all material emotions. Yet none of us have probably ever witnessed or seen what is that kind of an emotion. It's the transcendental or a spiritual emotion. That comes fully only after liberation, much after liberation. Until then, it will be only our own mental thing. So we have to always, that's why refer anything, any thoughts or realizations or doubts, or even sometimes even dreams, we have to refer to the Shastra and see, is it correct? Is it correlating to what the Shastra says? Otherwise, most probably it is just our own concoction. So what, now, sadhana bhakti basically, as I said, in the Bhagavatam also it is stated, Navavida bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So when we do, especially Shravan, Kirtan, Smaran is most important. That's why it comes in that order. Especially in this Kali Yuga, we may not be able to do any other thing, like, elaborately worshipping the deity, or Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. So these are all higher forms. We have to become like a dasa of the Lord, And then always offering prayers, that also we can always keep offering prayers to the Lord. But primarily, in order to nourish our bhakti, we have to do Shravan Kirtan. Kirtana means whatever I'm doing now, talking about the Lord is also Kirtana. There are many types of Kirtana. Kirtana about Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, about the Supreme Lord. It is all Kirtana. Means Nama is his Nama, various Nama, it could be Krishna, Rama. And the Acharya has explained that which kind of Nama we should choose. I'm not talking about any Devata Nama. Specifically Vishnu, Narayana, or Krishna, or any form of Vishnu. Why do we keep saying this? It's not that we have anything against the Devatas, but the only thing is Devatas are also Jivatmas like us, but they have attained a very high post. Those are all posts, right from Brahma, Shiva, then Indra, Chandra, all details, information, everything is given in Puranas, like in Garuda Purana. And correct, it is a management hierarchy. It is the organization. Is this universe, running this universe is also a very big organization. So, but everything is done under the supervision of Lord Vishnu, Krishna. But so, like I said, Garuda Purana and other Puranas, they even tell us how one can attain that post, what kind of sadhana one must perform. Everything is there specific. For example, even to get to the post of Indra, one has to hear Harikatha from Garuda for 1 lakh years or something like that. So it is not easy. Of course, it is very pleasurable. Who will not want to hear what I say? But one has to have that much advancement also in his consciousness. Because all these devatas, they are directly serving the Supreme. They are very, very great beings, definitely. That's why they are invested with so much power. But one who prays to some devata, Krishna says, Tataya Shraddhaya Yukta, Tasyaradhanamihate, Labhate Chatatah Kaman, Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan. He says this in the 7th chapter. He's saying, if somebody has a little Shraddha in some devata or they get attracted to some form of devata, it is I, Krishna, or the Paramatma who's sitting inside our heart, he gives us that faith. He makes that faith stronger. Okay. And then he's the one who gives whatever benedictions we get from Devata, whatever the Devatas bless us with. It is he who is giving it through them. But why does he do that? Why doesn't he say, okay, everybody has to worship me? Actually, he says, this is the final conclusion of Bhagavad-Gita. But for different people, they have attained different natures. So they get attracted to certain kind of devatas accordingly. And his final instruction is, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Sarva dharmani parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Because he explains karma yoga, ashtanga yoga, gnana yoga, bhakti yoga. He concludes, this is it. Give up all varieties of other religion because they are all lower religions. But if you are ready, but you should be, better take to it immediately. Instead of climbing so many steps and going to 20th story, if you can directly take an elevator and go, the best. Anyway, we have to go there. So why do it? And now, so as far as possible, the recommendation is we have to do this constantly. How much ever possible. It may not be possible constantly, at least immediately for a beginner, but we have to slowly do it every day, little bit, and then baby steps, then we can increase the duration. And so one may ask, then who is eligible to do sadhana bhakti, right? Can anybody perform sadhana? Yes, anybody and everybody. In Kali Yuga especially, because that concession is there in Kali Yuga. Earlier yugas were different. Shudra could not do all this. Or other, everybody had their own specific duty, but in Kali Yuga, everything is messed up. Nobody is following all that. So, So is there any, what is the one thing required is one should have faith, Shraddha. Without faith, how can take to it at all? So that is there. And what about age? No bar. Actually, one should start from the very beginning, or very beginning as in not just right after birth, even before birth, even during pregnancy, a mother has to follow all this. Even before conception, there is all the rules and regulations for Garbhadana. All this was done, all this was followed in the previous yugas, and that's why they would get such good progeny. If nothing is followed, then again, the population that comes about, that is what is happening in Kali Yuga. So everything becomes a debate. So Prahlada says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kaumaram Acharet Pragno Dharman Bhagavatam. So from the very beginning, Kaumara age means 0 to 5 years. Even child specialists or child psychologists, even they acknowledge this, that the first 5 years of one's life, whatever we do, actually we are learning our life skills that is required to lead our life throughout the life. Whatever we learn in those 5 years has the maximum impact. Why do they say that? There is a very specific reason, because when a child is born, his mind is very clean. There are no impressions as such, at least from this life. Past impressions may be there, samskaras are there, but at least in this life, he is starting fresh. So it is very easy to mold a child. If the child is molded with good samskaras, and if they are given training in Bhakti Yoga, then he will naturally follow throughout. But what does not happen in childhood, later on, in teenage and youth, it's very difficult to make them understand. So that is also there. And of course, life is very short. So why waste any time at all? From the beginning, if children are taught, it becomes natural. So, if possible, I would request that all members of all age groups should watch these sessions, and they should benefit. And next question may be, what about those who have so many desires, material desires? No problem. Bhagavatam says, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharadi. Tivrayana bhakti yogi vijayata purusha. If, let's say, a person has no desires at all, no material desires, or someone has so many material desires, or someone wants only mukti or liberation, anything be the case, he can just do bhakti to Lord Vishnu, and he will achieve the highest. So we take an example of Dhruva in Bhagavatam. Dhruva also was such a candidate. He had such lofty desires. He wanted to become the ruler of not just this Brahmanda. Brahma is the ruler of the whole Brahmanda, and he wanted a post higher than that of Brahma. How is it possible? It's not possible. But still, because he took shelter of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he fulfilled it. So he gave him the Dhruva Loka, which is actually Vaikuntha. It is not even though it is here in the world, still it is untouched by this Maya. It is actually spiritual abode. So that was the compassion of the Lord. But what happened to Dhruva? That is very interesting. Even though Dhruva started with so much desires, but because he took shelter of Vishnu and not any other Devata, and he took shelter of a pure Vaishnava like Narada. Narada instructed him and he followed it exactly. Just in the matter of 6 months, he gained audience with the Supreme Lord. Just 6 months. And that was his determination. And how powerful was his prayer and his 6 months was enough. And the Supreme Lord directly came. Ashte, just
not like with Bhagavatam or millions of people.
But That that is the power, and he did exactly what his guru taught him. He was chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and he made a deity in the form of mud, and he was worshipping with whatever little paraphernalia he found in the forest, just the leaves, water up. But what happened in the process is that his heart became purified and grew up. Even though he started off with such lofty desires, but when the Supreme Lord himself came, he says, Swamin Kritarthosmi Varam Nayache. I don't want anything. I was looking for a broken piece of glass. But now I have found diamond. Why will I want a broken piece of glass? If anybody gets a darshan of the Supreme Lord, oh, what more can he want? There is nothing more he'll want to obtain.
He wanted to sit on his father.
Yeah, it started from there. He just wanted to sit on the father's lap, but because of his stepmother, she tells him so much arrogance and pride. He says, if at all you want to sit on your father's lap or on the throne, then you have to be reborn from my womb because you're the son of your mother. She had the pride that she was the favorite queen. So go pray to the Supreme Lord. He can make you. That means go die first. Pray to the Lord that he will be born, as my son. Then let's see. This arrogance. But what made him achieve this success was his mother. Even though she was so distraught with pain, she was very much pained by all this, but still she said, even though Suruchi has done all this to you, you should never harbor any bad envy, hatred. You shouldn't, because when we are approaching the Supreme Lord, you should just pray with a simple mind. You should not pray with the intention that I want to harm someone. And finally, but it is also the dharma of the Lord that he said, no, I know your heart. You came with this desire, so I cannot go back without giving you anything. So he gave him bhakti and he gave him this. But throughout, as he started walking back to his palace after he saw the Lord and after the Lord left, how much he regrets. What a fool I am. What did I come to get? What could I have got? And then he's completely changed person now. And when he sees both his stepmother and the original mother, he has no discrimination. He has no hatred.
So I have a question. He is the king. He is the protector of all his people. So now he changes his path. What happens to the people?
That also he rules. That also
I know in Dhruva's case, saying in general. Person who is working and then there's so many people are dependent on him, and suddenly he changes course. I mean that means not only Deva Dharma.
No, that is there, but see that also is explained in Bhagavadgita. We are all bound by these rules of karma until a certain point.
Changes.
There is this shloka in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says,
Krishna always says, do your duty. He tells Arjuna, do your duty no matter what, right?
That is only because you have still not gained so much attraction. Yes. Yasvatmaratirevasyad atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. One who reaches this point of complete attraction for the Supreme Lord he doesn't have any more obligation to anything, anyone. That's it. He has attained his perfection, his goal. All this is set up, all these rules, regulations, everything is set up so that we mature to that state. But once we attain that state, why need? Then Krishna himself is saying. But until we reach that, then we are bound by all these rules, regulations. So for such a self-realized person who has no more attraction to anything, he is not subject to any punishment. Nobody will blame him, and because he has attained the highest perfection. And now coming back to right? What was I saying?
Because of Ajamila, you would decide where you want to go back on.
So there is no age bar and correct. Now I was talking about even if we have material desires or no desires or whatever be the case, we all should do bhakti. So what happened to Dhruva, right? But yet there are other Rakshasas who also had this desire to rule the whole universe, right? But why did they get killed by the Lord? Because they took shelter of Devatas. So Hiranyakashipu, he also had such lofty desires, but he prayed to Brahma. So what the Devatas do is that they just do their job and they leave. Okay, you want this benediction? Okay, take it. That is their job, that's it. But what happens when we actually take to bhakti is all the anarthas in our heart will go away. But if we are just worshipping devatas, that karma or the desire and all that will still be there because we are just. It is just like a business transaction, right? Once we get the demons, that's what happens to them. Once they get the benediction fulfilled, in the case of now what is that? So many asuras. Once this asura, after he got the benediction from Lord Shiva, he wanted to go test it on Lord Shiva. He got a benediction that whosoever head I touch, Bhasmasura. And then he ran behind Shiva. What is the question of any gratitude or integrity? Because there is no change in heart. But when we take to bhakti process, heart completely changes. That is why no other path of karma is as purifying as bhakti. This is explained in detail by Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, what it says is all other processes. So I'll quickly say a couple of points. So one is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, next, these are all levels, then Ashtanga Yoga, then finally Yoga. But when we are doing yoga, yoga means that is connecting with the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Even those who are doing Karma Yoga, they are doing their karma as a Brahmana, Kshatriya. But what they are doing is they are offering their karma to Supreme Lord. But in Vedas, there are many other methods. There is Karma Kanda, Gnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda. That is different. In the Karma Kanda, there are all sorts of procedures. Or we have to go to Svargaloka, we have to do this yajna or this worship, or we need that, we need wealth, we need progeny, we need this or that or whatever. Then we have to worship this devata, that devata. That is different. That is karma kanda. But at least we should come to karma yoga, wherein we have started connecting with the Supreme Lord. So that is the yoga ladder. And gradually, this used to happen gradually in the previous yugas, but now where is the time? So directly we have to. That is why this is the yuga dharma is the highest. There are rules and regulations in Bhakti Yoga, but especially when it comes to the chanting, there are not much rules. So that is why Ajamila, in whatever state or whatever consciousness he was chanting, he still got the benefit. And so the example given in Srimad Bhagavatam is that when we go cut a tree, what happens, especially in case of bamboo, or when there is forest fire, it is all rooted out when the forest fire happens. But it is all cut, but the root is still there. The root still remains. So what happens with that is, at the next opportunity when there is rain or whatever, then that plant may sprout back again. So when it comes to karma, gnana, Ashtanga Yoga, all these other processes, there may be some purification of the heart, but it is not absolute or it's not permanent. There are those desires, they may still come back and wreak havoc, as in the case of Ajamla. But if we take to Shuddha Bhakti, which is not contaminated by any other desires, only for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, that is actually Shuddha Bhakti. Then what happens that, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Rathokshate Ahitati Akratihata Ayatma Sukhasi. Highest worship. We have all heard about unconditional love, right? Where is that unconditional? That can is possible only between Bhakta. So this is the unconditional love that I'm talking about. Ahitati Bhakti. Means there is no reason at all. I just want to worship the Lord, or I just want to hear His katha, I just want to chant His name. That in itself is so sublime and blissful. So that is natural way of doing it. Not that, I want to worship because I want to get this position or so much money. That is not pure. So this is pure bhakti, and that is what is most recommended. It should be ahituki, means it should be causeless, without any reason. And it should be apratihata, uninterrupted. Means if it goes on that way, then we will come to a real spiritual position. And that is when our Atma becomes most blissful. That is what is our Atma hankering for lifetimes, which we don't know. So, the Shastras explain that, even if the Supreme Lord were to, let's say, appear, we may not even know what to ask, right? We should know importantly what to ask. There is a story example, and there was an old lady. Every day she would go to the forest. She would collect wood from the forest. She would carry it on her head, and she would go. One day it so happened that it fell off from her head, and she was so tired she was not able to lift it. And she piteously prayed to Lord Narayana. Oh Narayana, please help. Piteously prayed. Because she prayed with such intensity, Lord appeared. Lord Narayana appeared. But the woman was so unintelligent. All she asks him is, can you please lift this back and keep it on my head? That is something like our situation. We should understand what is the highest benediction. Is it that I want dharma, artha, kama, or moksha? These are called as the purusharthas. So traditionally in Vedic culture, first of all, dharma. When one follows dharma, then they will get artha. And that means money. It could be money or resources. When Brahmana performs his dharma, then he gets whatever is required for his maintenance, Kshatriya, his dharma, and so on. So everything was guided by Vedic dharma, shastras. People lived accordingly. So there was no question of them committing sins. Still, the nature of this world is such that we'll still end up committing sins. Just like there is something called as Panchasuya Yagna. Earlier, everyone would do all this yagna. It is something like this. When we walk on the street or when we walk anywhere, so many ants may get killed. Just by breathing, so many innumerable entities which are so tiny without our knowledge, they get killed. So this way, some way or the other, we are committing, unknowingly or knowingly, so much papa. So they would do some kind of yagna to counteract such sins also. What do we do now? Kali Yuga. That is why when one takes to the Bhakti Yoga, that is enough. That is what happened with Ajamila. Even though he did not do any atonement, actually the thing is, in earlier yugas or earlier days, People were so scared because they knew that what is awaiting them. If some bad papa would have happened, they would do the prayashchitta as prescribed in Vedic Shastra before they die. Otherwise, they have to go to hell to pay for that sin or those sins. But nowadays, nobody knows, nobody even believes. Whether we believe it or not, we have to pay the price. So that is why, out of his extreme compassion, the Supreme Lord has given this, especially this Nam Sankirtan. We don't need any money, we don't need any resources, we don't need anything to do. Namna Makari Bahuda Nijasarva Shakti Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranena Kala. Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Namapi Durdaivam Idrishami Jani Nanura. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays, representing all of us. He says, "Oh my Lord, you are so merciful. You have given this Harinama of yours. Harinama is not different from him. It is the same as Narayana. If you say Narayana, you're getting him in the form of Nama. So it has all the potencies or energies, whatever the Lord can do, even the Nama can do. In spite of all this, there are no rules, regulations for this form of bhakti because it's the highest. No more rules will bind us. We can chant when we are sleeping, eating, walking, even in the bathroom, even we are pure, not pure, doesn't matter. Because the Nama itself will purify us. It's all purified. So, still we are not attracted. So he's saying that is how unfortunate we are. So, after all this, so what should one really ask for, right? So we should really ask for, let's say we get 100 rupees, then we don't have to ask for 10 rupees, 5 rupees, right? Everything, it's already included. So let's say we ask for this Shuddha Bhakti of Lord Vishnu and Krishna, then that is the highest attainment. We don't need anything. So in the Bhakti Yoga, the most important thing is, unlike Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, it is not one-sided. That means in Karma Yoga, only the body is working. In Jnana Yoga, only the intelligence is working. And in the Dhyana Yoga, only the mind, they're trying to control the mind, and then they're sitting in one place, the postures, asanas, or they're doing this dhyana. But the body, the senses are not engaged. So there is every chance that the senses may demand. That's what happened with many yogis. They were although very powerful yogis like Vishwamitra. But on seeing Menaka, he felt no. Why? Because he was not engaged in Bhakti Yoga. So in Bhakti Yoga, what happens is Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda Vacham Chidhirnani. There is an instance in the Bhagavatam, many instances, especially this one Maharaja called Amrish Maharaja, how he exemplified Bhakta, even though he was a Maharaja, even though he had all his duties to perform, still he used his hands only to serve the deity of the Lord or serve the Lord's devotees, sadhus. He used his eyes only to see the beautiful deity form of the Lord. He used his nose only to smell the flowers offered to the Lord. He used his tongue only to speak about the Lord or take prasadam. And so on. He used his legs only to walk to Dhama or to the temple of the Lord. So his entire mind, intelligence, ahankara, body, everything was completely engaged in Bhakti Yoga. There was no chance of him going astray. And he was even though he was very, very humble, Bhaktas are usually they're very humble. They don't show off their powers like the yogis. So what happened was Durvasa Muni came once to test him because he was envious that, this Amrish Maharaja, he's just a grihastha, he's a king. How is it that he has become so powerful? But he's such a great yogi, and so he does some there's some testing and so he gets purposely he does that on purpose, and he gets very angry with this Amrish Maharaj, and he'll create a demon to kill him. But immediately Sudarshana Chakra comes, kills the demon, and starts chasing Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni goes to all lokas, tries to get help. Nobody comes to help. Shiva, Brahma, Devata, nobody. Then finally he goes to Vaikuntha, meets Vishnu, and Vishnu also says, I cannot do anything. Sadhavo Hridayam Mahyam. He says, I am controlled by the sadhus. They are in my heart, I am also in their heart. You should go apologize to the sadhu. Not me. Even if you apologize to me, no, I can't help you because I am in control of my devotees. So he goes to Amrish Maharaja, begs for forgiveness. And then finally, Sudarshana Chakra will reveal.
How does it really just goes back? Goes to Amrish Maharaja.
Previous grandson is Gati.
How the Sowmya is Durvasa Kshetra. So Ambarish, he goes back to Ambarish Maharaja, and then Ambarish Maharaja
He apologizes, but Amrish Maharaja never.
once it has
It is not a material weapon. It goes back to.
like in this way. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು
There is a passage in Bhagavatam.
ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗ is the Durvasa Kshetra. Oh, very few people are there. We have either also other one.
Okay, so the point being made is one need not give up desires to do bhakti. One when performs bhakti, and it is not that when someone comes to a liberated platform, let's say he becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, it's not that he has no desires, he has no thinking, feeling, willing, or he has become a stone. No, he has become fully conscious now in his best consciousness. A conscious living entity means Jivatma. How can it be without desires? How can it be without thinking, feeling, or willing to do something? And it is always active. Chaitanya means that is the symptom of a jiva, and it is always active. Even if we see under the microscope, tiniest living organisms, microbes, are always moving about. Not a stone. Stone has no life. It will not move. So now we are talking about someone who has attained the highest level of consciousness. Will he just simply be sitting like a stone? No, he'll be very active. Active in the service of God. So that is why even in the Vaikuntha, we see in the spiritual world, they're always serving. They're always eager to serve. Here in this world, there is always a competition. Who is going to serve me? Hey, you serve me. Why should I serve you? In the spiritual world, it's opposite. There is a competition. I want to serve you. I want to serve the Supreme Lord. They're all that way. They're always serving other Vaishnavas, or the Supreme Lord. And maybe you can bring that up now. How?
So if you want to toggle, you want to toggle or you want to share the screen? So I have shared the pictures with all of you. You can look at the picture.
Or maybe a couple more minutes after I finish this one. I'll go to that. So the point I was making was, even in the Bhagavadgita, in many there are shlokas by Supreme Lord. He gives the characteristic of one who has come to that pure state of consciousness, or one who is eligible to go to the spiritual kingdom. One of the shlokas he says is Nirmana Moha Jita Sangha Dosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinivritta Kama Dvandvair Vimukta Sukha Dukha Samne Gacchantya Moha Padamapyayantat. So he says Nirmana Moha. So he doesn't have that moha or illusion that, oh, I'm this, I'm that. What does he have now? He understands that I'm eternal servant. So in material world, people get very scared. How can I become servant? No, I want to be a master. But in the spiritual world, everybody wants to serve. That's the little lot of love. That is the unconditional love. So that is the real dharma of jiva. So we may give up anything, but we always want to do something to someone, right? Seva. So we see in the Western countries, nowadays even in India, of course, when family life falls apart, especially in West, when there is nobody to take care of, nobody to serve, they'll keep a dog. They serve. The point is they want to serve. They cannot sit simply like that. That is the nature. That is the dharma. Dharma means this. So what is the dharma of jiva means to seva. But when it is realized in its purest state, serving the Supreme Lord, that is bhakti. So if fire, dharma of fire is pretty hot. If fire is not hot, it's not fire. If dharma of ice is to be cold and to be solid. If the ice melts, then it is no more ice. It becomes water. So that is the dharma. What is the dharma of jiva means? Seva to the Supreme Lord. It's our original function. So, but the point is, we may not be so attracted at this point immediately to hear so much or to chant or to do any kind of seva to the Supreme Lord. That is only because of our own anarthas which is in our body, which is in our heart. Acharyas compare it like jaundice. So one who has jaundice, even though you give him sweet, it will not taste sweet for him. It tastes bitter. But what is the medicine? Take that same sweet sugar candy, keep taking it, and that will cure jaundice. And one fine day you will realize, oh, this is so sweet, so relishable. Same with us. Even though this chanting of this Harinama and doing this Hari Bhakti is actually most relishable activity to the Jivatma, because this is our natural function. But because we are jaundiced, we have this disease, material disease, and we have all these anarthas. That is why we don't like it. But the more we do this bhakti yoga, more we do this sadhana bhakti, then when we attain the pure state, then it becomes so relishable. From then on, there will be no looking back. That's what I said. Yasthatma ratireva syad, atma triptaschamana. That we need to get attracted to this naturally. When we come to that natural stage of attraction, then we want to do it more and more and more. How much ever we do, we are not satisfied. The gopis say that, oh, what kind of creator is this Brahma? They get angry with Brahma that he has created eyelids. Oh, momentarily we keep blinking and I'm not able to get that vision of the Supreme Lord. I'm not able to serve him continuously. What kind of a creator is this Brahma? That is Prema. That is the highest form of consciousness. Okay. And liberated pure devotees, it's not that they are also devoid of emotions or desires. They have this desire to always serve the Supreme Lord. Their emotions are also there. The emotions are also there. Otherwise, how can we call them as even living, right? And it is not that they have no anger or they have all the emotions are there, but they're all purified. How do we substantiate this? For example, Hanuman. Hanuman had so much anger when... Yeah, definitely.
Anger is the nice.
No, that's what I'm saying. What kind of anger? That anger is not selfish. If somebody does anything on his personal account, he is not angry. But if somebody does anything to the Supreme Lord or his devotee, Ravana captured Sita, and with that anger, he burnt the whole of Lanka. He put Lanka on fire. That anger pleased Lord Rama. Lord Rama is happy to see that, oh, my devotee, he loves me so much that, because he cares for me so much, he has, done this to show the enemy down. That is wanted, that is required. So this is all purified state of emotion. Even the Supreme Lord has emotion. Even Brahma, Krishna, they don't have emotions, how will we get? So it is not that we have emotions only in this life. And we have a higher state of things. So this is about Abhideya. So quickly I'll talk about Prayojana. So we are talking about all this. What is it that we want to achieve, right? So I already spoke about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There is something even beyond moksha. That is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to. And it was never given before that anyone. So we have all these acharyas that came. They were all sent by the Supreme. There is a gradual development of philosophy. So first we have to lay the foundation. Without laying the foundation, we cannot go to the 10th. So every acharya who came, Buddha himself came. But Buddha himself spoke against Vedas and Vedic Dharma. Why? He's the avatar of Lord Vishnu. But that was required at that point of time. It is called Desha Kala Patra. That preaching is done according to the time, place, people, and the circumstance. At that time, in Kali Yuga, was so degraded that all these yagnas. That is why yagna, homas, they're not really recommended in Kali Yuga, because all this Ashwamedha yagna, Gomedha yagna, it became mere exercise of killing animals. There was no purity in the Brahmanas like before, when they would sacrifice these animals. Immediately the animal would get a rejuvenated new body, or they would be elevated to human body. So, but now that was not happening in Kali Yuga. Those mantras that these Brahmanas were chanting were not, did not have that efficacy or purity. So what happened was it became mere exercise of killing animals and consuming them. So this was unbearable. So even Jayadev Goswami has written about this, how even the Supreme Lord was so disturbed by this. How much killing of animals. Just to stop that killing, he came as Buddha. And he said, so he said, you are following this Vedic Dharma, forget it. No need of any Vedas. And he went against the Vedas because he just wanted them, because they were in because they couldn't understand also a higher dharma. When someone is involved so much in killing, he cannot understand.
Stop the war.
Yeah. So Krishna also says this in Bhagavadgita. Te dvandva moha nirmukta, one who is free from sins. Only he can come to bhakti. So more purified we are, more we can take to bhakti. Similarly, these sinful people could not understand higher dharma. So he said, ahimsa paramo. To stop this killing, you don't know Vedas, nothing is required. There is no God, everything is shunya. Ahimsa paramo. For that, he came. So that is why we don't worship Buddha. Even though he is the avatar of Vishnu, we don't worship, because he has gone against Shastra himself. So it was required, but that's why we don't worship. So Shastra is so important. Even if the Supreme Lord goes against it, we don't want. So next comes Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya now, he had to bring back people into the Vedic Dharma. Otherwise, how can you give any philosophy at all? So he had to preach in such a way, because most of them already were Buddhists. Throughout India. Jain was there actually. Jain is the, from what I understand, Jainism, it comes from Rishabhadeva. But this Jainism is not a proper authorized version. They've concocted their own theory. Rishabhadeva's teachings is there in Bhagavatam also. But everything is there in Bhagavatam. But it is also said in Bhagavatam, but the Jaina Mata, it became misinterpreted. It was not correct. It was not in line. with the Rishabhadeva's teaching. So anyway, Shankaracharya also had a mission. He was Shiva himself sent by the Lord. Now, sometimes what we have to do is we have to preach to people in the way they understand. So he also spoke in the same way. He also said about Nirakaravada because he had to bring back Vedic Dharma. So he brought back Sanatana Dharma. Otherwise, people wouldn't have followed at all Sanatana. He brought back, but still more message was not, had to be given. So other acharyas also came. But Shankaracharya also said, Bhaja Govindam, Mudamati. He also said that. Under him, not. But he did not probably emphasize so much because he had his own task also. Exactly. ಇದು ಪದ್ಮ ಪುರಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ ಪದ್ಮ ಪುರಾಣ ಶಿವ ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಿಸ್ he tells Parvati I am going in Kali Yuga as Shankara in order to do this task because the Buddhists already have taken over. So if you completely refute them, they're already following. If you completely say what you're doing is wrong, they will not listen. Okay, you have to speak in such a way that, okay, you should not challenge it directly, but okay. He brought everyone back to Sanatana. Then came Ramanujacharya. So, Shankaracharya spoke about from Shunyavada to he came to a point of Aham Brahmasmi. He came to the point of, yes, we are not this material elements. We are separate from this. We are the spirit soul. We are Jivatma. And then came Ramanujacharya. He gave some more to it. He added on to it. Then he spoke about, that we have to we have to surrender to the Lord, Sharanagati, and then we have to attain Vaikuntha, service to it. Then Madhvacharya came. Ramanujacharya also did not clearly say whether Jivatma and Paramatma were different. Madhvacharya, these are all empowered acharyas sent by the Supreme Lord himself. There is no question that there is any contradiction between them. It's just that we may, superficially when we see, we may feel that, oh, they are opposed to this, they're opposed to this. But there is a plan behind it. So then Madhvacharya came. Madhvacharya was very strong because that was also required. Now he had to tell, now that the stage had been set. So now he established that no, Jivatma and Paramatma are different. So Jivatma has to serve the Paramatma. So that is Dvaitavada. Many other acharyas have also come. There are 4 sampradayas coming from Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi. Lakshmi is Ramanujacharya. Then Kumaras. So they've also, there is a Shuddhadvaita, and there is one in Gujarat, Vallabha Sampradaya. But finally, the latest, so every acharya had their own siddhanta. And finally came Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 500 years back. He gave the full culmination and he reconciled all these philosophies. He tied everything together and he said, there is no contradiction, and he gave Achintya Bheda. We are different from the Supreme Lord in quantity. We are the same in quality. Just like I said, spark and big fire. But we have to serve the Lord and attain this Panchama Purushartha. And he actually has been revealed by acharyas. They have written so many biographies about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they have all declared in unison and they have given so much evidence from Shastra that he is the Yuga Avatar. Because he was the one who established this Nam Sankirtana. All these acharyas have also spoken about it, but nobody emphasized so much and nobody put it to practice so much. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy also, everything is based on Shastra. And all his, there are many evidences. In Bhagavatam itself says, when it comes to, there is a conversation happening between Raja Nimi and Navayogindras. And they're asking about different Yuga avatars. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, then they finally come to Kali Yuga. What about Kali Yuga? Then he says, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Akrishnam Sango Pangasya Pashadam Yatnai Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Vi Sumedasa. So that innocent people may not be fooled. Just about everyone and anyone cannot be, cannot post themselves as avatara. Shastras give us every information, how he looks, what he does. And like I said, he doesn't come alone, Supreme Lord. The VVIP, he comes with all his parshads, his associates and all that. And he has a specific mission. What is the mission of this Yugavatara? Yagnai Sankirtana Praya Yajanti. He has to establish the Yuga Dharma of Nama Sankirtana. And that's exactly what he has done. And even in the Vishnu Sahasranama, they quote, Suvarna Varana Hemango Varangas Chandanangadi. He is called as Goranga, Hemanga, because he was golden. He's golden now. Golden in complexion, so effulgent, so beautiful. And Varangas Chandanangadi. So beautiful, and he is applying Gopi Chandana all over. Then again, Vishnu Sahasranama says, Sanyasakrit Chamakshantu Nishtashanti Praya. Particular avatara, he takes sannyasa. He leaves his old mother and his newly wed 16-year-old wife. No one else to take care. 24 years of age. He leaves everybody and goes, takes sannyasa. Just to save the world, just to establish this Yuga Dharma. And of course, he's given so much more. And he disappeared from this planet 48 years.
Very young.
48
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
And then, but even to this day, they show in a place called Tota Gopinath, there is the DT, they show a small golden spot. That is where Mahaprabhu disappeared, in that golden spot. So, such avatars.
He didn't leave the body.
They will not leave the body. That is an avatara. So they come in the self-same spiritual body. And there are so many leelas. I can't go into the detail, but so many leelas that show that he is sometimes in that transcendental or in that spiritual emotion. Now he is playing not the part of Krishna. Even though he was Krishna, he was Bhakta Avatara. He was playing the part of Gopis, Radharani. Why? Because he wanted to show to us how to attain Supreme Lord by that Prema Bhakti, Ananya. That is what he came to give. So, what he came to give was beyond even moksha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, anyway, is available here. But moksha, Bhagavatam says there are 5 types of moksha. Most of us wouldn't have even heard. All we know is Sayujya. That means we go merge into the. But with more to it. There are different acharyas have given different paths. So, Salokya, Sashti, Samipya, Sarupya, Katvam, Apyuta, Diyamanam Nagrananti, Vinamat Sevanam Janaha. Comes the Kapila Deva in the Bhagavatam. Salokya means to be on the same planet as the Supreme Lord. There are so many spiritual planets, they can go, be there. Sashti means to get so much like opulence or power like the Supreme Lord. Samipya means to always be with him, close to him, like Arjuna. Wherever Krishna would go, he would always be there with him. So Sarupya means to get the same features and form like the Lord. Many of these Vaikuntavasis, right? So as we see, so see in this picture, the description of Vaikuntha is there in the third skanda of Bhagavatam.
You have sent the picture.
Vivid description. All these associates there, all these devotees there.
Which picture are you looking?
This one. The women look like Lakshmis and the men look like Vishnus. They all have 400 form, Neela Varna, splendid, so effulgent, so beautiful. And the females look, golden complexion like Lakshmi Devi. And so it's a beautiful description of the Vaikuntha world. And but even though they are there, they live there as husband wife, they have a family life that way. But they're always interested in always serving the soul, not themselves. That is a difference. So this is Sarupya, and then Aikatvam. Aikatvam is to merge in God. So these are the different types of liberation, but Vaishnavas or Vaishnava Acharyas, they don't prefer this Aikatvam. They don't want to merge into the Supreme Lord or in the Brahmajyoti. There are many reasons for that. One is that they want to retain their identity so that they can serve the Lord. If you go merge, it's almost like you're not exist. You don't have your own identity, you're not. How can you serve the Lord? There may be little Brahmananda, but this Premananda or Bhaktiananda, Sevananda is so much more times higher than that. Of course, when we can directly serve the Supreme Lord, why would we want to go merge? That is the point of Srimad Bhagavatam. And yet, so even Gajendra, when Gajendra Moksha also, he gets Sarupya. It says in Bhagavatam, Gajendra, when he is saved by Vishnu, from the elephant body, he gets Chaturbhuja Rupa. There are so many such examples. It is not that, somebody has concocted all this. But then pure devotees of the Lord, here it is, this sloka says, they say, no, I don't even want that. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagatishakam. Ma janmani, ishvare, bhatad bhakti raheti. I don't want dhana. I don't want money. I don't want followers. I don't want a beautiful wife. I don't even want moksha. He's saying, I want life after life. I want your bhakti. That is highest, purest form of devotion. You don't ask anything to the Lord in return. Whether you want me to go to hell or go to Swarga or be in Guloka or come to Vaikuntha. If you desire, I will come wherever you want, but I want to just. That is the nature of pure devotion, love. So this is what is called the Panchama Purushartha. It is called Prema. Prema Pumartho Maha. This is what, this pure bhakti is what Bhagavatam talks. Again and again, again and again. And it is the highest attainment or the highest goal in life. And that is what Mahaprabhu came to give. And there is so much more to it. Like in Vaikuntha, there is this still little distance from the Lord. That means it's not so intimate. So it is like, when the Lord is in his office, like as a manager, CEO, he's little formal. We have a formal relationship. But the same boss, when he comes home, is doing it so much intimacy. So that is Krishna in his Goloka Dham. So just end here. Just wanted to say another make it small. Okay. So this picture shows how this is another. This is called Goloka Vrindavana. This is the highest abode, and here with Krishna, Lord Krishna, he has shown in his Leelas how we can actually get personal, intimate relationship. And that is what Mahaprabhu came. It's the rarest of the rare. It is higher than that of Vaikuntha. So here's how that devotee, he is returning to the spiritual world. It is said in one of the Shastra that Krishna was waiting and he comes and hugs him so much. So they are like very intimate friends, very intimate relationship, intimate way of serving the Lord. And that is called Krishna Prema.